the special commission meeting of the Stuart City Commission, our second budget workshop for the 25th of August, 2025. Roll call, please.
Mayor Rich,
Here?
Vice Mayor Collins. Here. Commissioner Clark. Here. Commissioner Giobi.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you like to begin the presentation, Mr. Martell, or should we just go right to Jolie?
Well, I will start while he's spinning us up. At our last meeting, we discussed the budget and the balance and where we were and the puts and takes, as they say. And the direction from the commission was to come back to this meeting with a proposed budget with a millage rate of 4.75, which is what we've done. The budget you're going to get will be presented is completely balanced at 4.75. And I will say there's one other thing that happened between the last meeting and this meeting that caused my phone to ring a little bit. And that was that the tax bills also went out during the time. And what I did learn was that most of the people that called me had no idea how to read the tax bill. 3 or 4 of them didn't realize that they didn't live in the city of Stuart. And that's why there were no Stuart taxes on their tax bill, but we got to the bottom of that, and we talked about MSTUs and other things. But overall, the conversations I had with them were pretty straightforward. Most people then understood it. I didn't have any complaints at all, both for or against or anything one way or the other in those phone calls. It was more of just informational. What does this mean? What does that mean? And for a quick reference, if you happen to have received your tax bill and you happen to have looked at your tax bill, there was some lines and it said, if the commission doesn't take any action at all, this is what your taxes are going to be. And although we advertised the 5 mils as the not to exceed, they showed 2 tax bills. They showed what it would look like at 5 mils, and they also showed what it would look like at 4.7014, something like that, mils. 4.704 or something like that. And that was what your taxes would have been if your house did not appreciate at all. So the basic value of appreciation of the houses was about 3% for those that had the appreciation. So the 4.70 number that you saw in the tax bill was what's called a rollback number.
The rollback.
Right.
That would keep the revenue amount to be identical to the amount that was paid the year before, not based upon the value, but based upon the actual revenue number. So as the value of the property went up, in theory, if you're getting 10% on $100, it's $10. If now you have $200, you have to get 5% to get $100. And that's where the that 4.7014 number came from. It did advertise us at 5 mils for the thing, but it was not to exceed. So this bill, or this budget we have today, will not exceed, or does not exceed 4.75 mils and is balanced. And I think with that, I'll let Jolie have at it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And basically, we took essentially the same workshop we had last time and updated the slides and removed some of the slides that we'd already gone over. There was no purpose in continuing to rehash stuff that we'd already addressed. You'll see as we go forward.
Yes, sir. So on that note about the tax bill, having spoken to hundreds of residents personally on the phone over the years and in person at City Hall, I find that a large number of residents look at the bottom of their tax bill and say, this is what I pay in taxes. And several years ago, we did a tax initiative, and my direct telephone number was printed on the tax bill, so I got 600 calls or more directly at my desk. And I had a chance to talk with a number of citizens, and there was one particular I always use as the example, and her tax bill was $400, but I had her look down so many lines on the bill, she was only paying $12 to the city of Stuart. The rest was Martin County, the school board, Florida Inland Navigational District, Children's Services Council, and South Florida Water Management District. And a lot of people just look at their Stuart tax bill and say, I'm giving the city of Stuart $400. You're actually giving the city of Stuart $12, and the rest is going to these other agencies. So, if anyone could help guide the public to understand and read the tax bill to find the one line on there that's us, that's always helpful. So, where we are, let me get to that. So, status update since the last hearing. The state of Florida, and I just checked moments ago, still has not released some of those state revenues to us. I think because of the extended legislature this year, they're going to be very late in posting those revenues. So this budget is still using my projections or the current 2025 number for several revenues. Also, the manager has made those necessary adjustments to bring all funds of the budget into balance. So even though general fund is always in the spotlight here, because as I've said several times, the commission really just controls the ad valorem tax, the millage rate, and that's the main service provider to the citizens. The enterprise funds are required by their various bond documents to charge enough money to make sure they cover their expenses and their budgets. So we don't really talk a lot about the enterprise budgets, but those are in balance as well as the CRA. And as the manager led off with, the general fund and CRA balances are currently based on a 4.75 mil rate. So because what we charge in millage affects what the general fund pays the CRA and vice versa. We have that symbiotic relationship with them. And then personnel budgeting, I guarantee you right now the budget that I'm talking about today and showing you is already not right because somebody had a child, somebody got married, somebody's benefits have changed since the last time we updated the budget. But you can't just constantly keep updating it every day. The number you would never have a final number to vote on. So we've updated the personnel budgeting again since the last cut, took into account some employees who may have reached a certain certification level or changed their benefits, and I'm not going to change it again for the rest of this point. So we know on 10/1 there'll be slight adjustments for reality of what's happened down in the HR office. That said, here is that state of Florida local government. They're still expected August 2025. They have essentially 5 days left, unless they're going to roll it to September now. So those are things, they're not that consequential to balancing this budget. We were able to make the adjustments necessary without that. So this is the same slide as before. We had already, that calculation doesn't change. So the net difference between, taking off a $250,000 knocked off $913,950 in budgetary ad valorem numbers. We are required by TRIM to budget at least 95%, and we do that. I don't manipulate that number unless dire circumstances. And that also alters what the general fund pays the CRA. So the net hit to general fund was $761,646 in a reduction of revenues. The not to exceed rate was advertised on the DR 420 as 5 mils, only because we had a tight deadline to meet that TRIM timing. The commission is free to adopt any millage up to 5 without doing any extra advertisements or jumping through any special hoops. If you wanted to exceed 5, that would be a different story. The city can adopt whatever they want now up to that, and all the current notices are taken. This was the example bill that I did last time. As the manager said, we took off superfluous information, organized a little more. So basically, this is what the savings would be distributed out to those taxpayers in the non-residential group, examples and highest taxpayers. The manager commented that the slide was kind of somewhat hard to understand, and already there's updates today because I got a new cut of data. So what this is telling you is the blue line is telling you the number of parcels and that's on the left side of the thing. It goes from 200 up to 1,600. So that's a count of parcels. On the right side is the amount residents would pay. This is the difference between 5 mils and 4.75 mils. This is how that savings to the taxpayers would be distributed. And so the black number is the number of parcels, and the red number is an estimated amount of revenue. However, I know today in running the number, there's now 300 and, give me a moment. There are, I'm clicking over to the other side. $325 parcels that are completely exempt in the non-residential group. So that 141 right there is now 325.
So the red number.
Is the amount of,
That category would say.
that, right. So, well, if the property's valued at zero taxable value now, they don't get any savings on a tax bill, they don't
Right.
pay.
Right.
And now that's up to 325. So this is how that, I always do this with the inverse and the, so normally I'm showing you how the tax of 4.75 mils is collected. This is showing you how the 0.25 difference is distributed.
And if I can just comment too on what that category is, when he said it's up to, in the commercial, commercial would be 501(c)(3) exempt organizations. I know that when Martin Memorial Hospital was a community hospital, they had several buildings that were tax exempt. Cleveland Clinic is not, so they're not tax exempt. But you have churches and 501(c)(3)s like Safe Space and the Project Lift program and other things like that that become, that are tax exempt, that fall into those categories.
Right. And as I said, you know, these kind of graphs can get crazy. If I went down to like how many people only pay $10 in taxes, you know, based on their taxable value and so on. So here we are. Here's the progress since the August 11th hearing. City manager now reflects the budget adjustments previously identified as possible adjustments 1 through 4, and adjusted budgets across all funds are now balanced. This is how we've traveled this year so far. This is the tail of the tape. So I started the budget process at the current year millage of 5 mils. The 2025 original adopted budget was for general fund was $48,164,078. The departments requested $48,522,538, and at 5 mils that left us $3.9 million out of balance because it's the revenues that were different. And given that a lot of this year's request is not capital, it was operating expenses and some additional staff that had been added in the prior year. Even though those two numbers are very close to each other, the nature of the expense is very different. I can't, you know, pull in impact fees to pay for, you know, copier leases, that kind of things. So, you know, we can use impact fees and smart financing for capital request or, you know, infrastructure improvements, but not for operating and personnel. And then at our budget hearings, we heard, okay, we want to do 4.75 mils. And after the last put and take session, I think it had grown to 49 million in new revenues, you know, revenue adjustments and expenditure adjustments, because there's always puts and takes every year. So the health insurance had gone in with this 22% increase. FRS went in, you know, for example, there was a 7% increase on public safety FRS, and then various other puts and takes that went in. However, following our last meeting, the manager implemented those possible cuts 1 through 4, totaling $2,023,448. Not all of those are cuts in expenses. Some are additions in revenues, but the net change is $2,023,023.
If you remember during the meeting last time during the workshop, 4 had a 4A and a 4B.
Yeah.
And we said 4B is somewhere between 0 and $917,000 or whatever the number was.
871.
871. And so there's no 4A and 4B anymore because they really aren't separate. It's those combinations. And so what we've done now is combine 4A and B into the total number to accommodate it.
So now general fund as a balanced budget is sitting at 47,458,477. This is the makeup. You'll see that, this is something I always I always know, but I don't mention it, and then today I thought I'd bring it up. So again, I had shown like revenue sources, and so in your personal life, your job is more than likely 100% of your income. Some people may say, oh, I get interest on some CDs I've got in stocks and bonds, but typically the job you work is 100% of your revenue. For general fund, 30% of our revenue is property tax. And the other 70%, which in a $48 million budget was basically 18 million in taxes, we had to find 30 million elsewhere. And all those revenue sources are single-digit amounts, like 1% here, 2% here. These are grouped by category. Underneath that, like in intergovernmental revenues at 9.8% is a bunch of 1% amounts in there, or less than 1%. So that, we literally scrape together 70% of our revenues from other sources to make up the total, since only 30% comes from property taxes. If that's just an indicator there. So that's how the breakdown went. And then here you have the breakdown of functions that the city provides and where that is. So just as an example also that I always harp on, I know it sounds like a broken record, but there's always at least one new person sitting in the audience. The 17 million in ad valorem versus the 24 million in public safety. So all the property taxpayers in the city of Stuart, everyone from Mrs. Jones to Best Buy, gives us $17 million. Our public safety is 24 million. So, that's before we've paid the commissioners, that's before we've turned on a light at the ball field, that's before we've, mowed a blade of grass. So I think that we do a phenomenal job of coming up. So some of our competitors, like for example, a couple of years ago, a commission asked me about Jupiter Island. 98% of Jupiter Island's budget is ad valorem taxes. So they don't really have to do much scrounging for the other 2%. So we do a lot of work here in Stuart to make the ends come together. So that's how we met this challenge this time to come up at this. So where we are and where we go from here, since none of you are asking questions at this point, maybe you're holding them all to the end. Our next step would be our first TRIM hearing, which stands for Truth in Millage. And that is per Florida state statute that we hold a publicly advertised meeting. Now, the date and time of that meeting appeared on everyone's proposed tax bill that the manager started off the meeting referencing. So on that tax bill that people received, it said that we would meet on September 8th at 5:15 p.m. here at City Hall. At that meeting, you will announce the tentative millage and the tentative budget. And that basically lets everyone know what your intent to adopt is. So that 5 is what you advertised as not to exceed. At the September 8th meeting, you could advertise your first pass it. Here's our tentative millage for the year. This is what we intend to do. And then that gives them that 2 weeks in between to approach their elected officials, come in, write whatever opinions they want to write, that kind of thing. And then following that meeting on the 8th, we would have our second hearing for the final millage and the final budget on September 22nd. That's the one that I will advertise in the newspaper of local circulation and put on the website. And that is how you will adopt the final budget on September 22nd with the final millage and final budget adopted amounts. And as always, the budget is a living, breathing document, and you could do a budget amendment, October 1st, first day of the year. You could say, hey, we forgot something. But just, to comply with the Florida state statutes, that's what we have to do, is adopt a balanced budget for the new fiscal year, and those are the 2 public hearings that we're required to have. It was short and sweet, boss. I mean,
So I'll follow up. Absent direction from staff, or from the commission, we're at 4.75 and the budget will be balanced and we'll move forward. If there's direction from the commission to change that, then obviously we will make steps toward those changes. The intention at this point, or the way the process works, and Jolie just mentioned it, or the finance director just mentioned it, on September 8th at 5:15, it's statutory language that it has to be after 5 PM, so we always advertise it at 5:15. We will actually interrupt the meeting if we have to do this special thing, and we read these.
It is a script.
It's a
It is
script.
literally a script.
And we read these scripts. The one is the 4.75. The other one is that the rollback would be 4.70142 or whatever that number is. And then we read the tentative budget at first reading, and then we bring it back again on September 28th. I think
22nd, sorry.
It's whatever the meeting is.
We scheduled it with the regular
The
meetings.
fourth Monday in September. And at that point, it will be official and have to actually be adopted and is not subject to any additional changes once the commission adopts it. Today's meeting is obviously a workshop. In light of the fact that Jolie has been working nonstop with me and has gotten the budget essentially balanced, I do not anticipate the need for additional workshops unless you as a board want to have additional workshops. My thought was any tweaks that you might have today, we could actually address potentially today, or I can bring back on September 8th on that trim date and just adopt it, unless it was just a complete, policy change that everything had to change or be changed out. Or we're issuing bonds for something like that, but I don't anticipate that. So scheduling wise, I think that we're right on schedule. Everything's, now, it will be interesting to see if the state gives us the numbers that we're supposed to have by September. But that'll be the first time we've ever had that problem. And in fact, in 20 years, this is the first time I ever remember.
It's never been this late.
Yeah,
In 30 years.
We've
it's
never,
been this
I've never
late.
seen it like this.
Is there a reason why you think it's?
I would think it's the extended legislature this year put those committee people that do all those, their number crunchers in Tallahassee all had a late start because the legislature was
Right.
extended.
They were late on their budget, right?
And
They were late on everything this
So
year.
they were late on everything, and I think trying to roll those impacts into their models and Excel is taking a little longer too. To the manager's point, on September 8th, if there were any changes, we'd start out similar to this. I'd give you a summary of what's changed between whatever action you take today or whatever direction you give today. And that September 8th budget document would say, here's what changed between there or anything like that.
How would that work hypothetically if they're not done by the time
So
we have our
if-
second meeting? Do we postpone
If we
ours? Or-
if we estimated that their number is going to be $300,000
All right.
and their number is $200,000, then we're going to have to do a budget amendment at some point and come before you and say we have to eat $100,000.
So we would have our budget
We're going to
finalized.
adopt our budget anyway because we have to by law. We don't have a choice.
Right, we have to adopt.
They have to publish the bills and start collecting them. And then we'll end up having to come back and do a budget amendment to
Or the shortfall.
whatever the number is. I mean, if it's off by $25,000, at some point, we're going to have to come back and amend the budget to reflect what that number was, because we're guessing at the number. And it's not,
It could be more. It's not necessarily a shortfall.
it could go higher, too.
Could go higher.
Right. He could, Jolie normally is fairly conservative on those estimates, so it could be more.
You mentioned that anticipated, if they send what's anticipated. I'm
I
assuming
believe
usually-
Commissioner Reed has,
Yeah, but even if it's the other way, if we anticipated it at 100,000, if we said 100,000 and they send us $200,000, so it's more money,
Yes.
we'd still have to come back and
Right.
do a budget amendment because our number says 100 and now it's 200.
I'm more concerned if they're sending less, but basically, we're always pretty much on target with what we anticipate the money's coming in.
It's,
If I had been off target really bad, I probably still wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been pretty on target for 30 years.
and Jolie's normally
Yeah,
conservative about
I'm
it.
sure
Right.
that we anticipate pretty close to
Right.
depending what's coming in. It doesn't
And
affect the flow of money, so
Yeah,
if
and
it
it's
comes in
also-
like until December.
It's also not a huge, it's not going to be zero, so I mean, like,
Right.
there's going to, the number's going to be close, so it's not going to affect day-to-day operations at all.
But on the day-to-day operations, right now, they're late to begin with. The monies don't come from the state until December. Does that affect any flow of monies?
We would just, if the state never sent us any of the money, we would be using other money to cover those expenses.
I'm just talking about them
Right.
being late. We're not going
Right.
to say that they're not sending. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, Jolie, on that one slide you had, I guess where multiple parcels don't pay anything, it went from 140 to 300 and something. Is that normal trend to see? Or is that just yeah, that has nothing to do with homestead. It does have homestead?
Yeah, that one.
And just property values just,
Could be there, somebody qualified for homestead that didn't previously, or
It's also,
it was a secondary home and now they've given up the snow burning and they live here permanently, so they homesteaded. It could just be that. I communicate with the property appraiser's office. They get pretty sick of me during this process.
Yeah.
So, we send emails back and forth between
well, I know
Jenny's
it
staff
could be
and my staff.
churches like Mike said,
My former
educational.
mother-in-law was selling a condo in Monterey Yacht and Country Club, which is actually called King Mountain or something like that on the tax bill. But she was wanting to move to Alabama where her daughter lives, and she wanted to move by June, and she listed her condo last year for $101,000 in that project, and none of them sold. In April, a unit in there sold for $65,000. So that unit that might have been worth $100,000 the year before sold for $65,000. The person that bought it for $65,000 walked right into the property appraiser's office and said, this is what the going rate is in these units, and now it's below $75,000, so it's going to get homesteaded at $65,000. And then if you take $65,000
Condo
and you,
prices have been whacked.
65, and I take times 1.03, it'll go to 66 in 1 year, times 1.03, 2 years, times 1.03, 3 years, times 1.03, 4 years, times 1.03, 5 years. So it'll be 6 years before that $65,000 condo can even reach $75,000 to even be at the taxable threshold right now, no matter what, if they homestead it, because they freeze it. It doesn't get to appreciate at the value of whatever the appreciation is. It's capped at 3% no matter what. And the other thing is, that's if everything goes up in value every year. What we found is a lot of the condos didn't go up in value because of these inspections, because of
Right.
assessments and insurance costs. So you're going to see next year that 341 number is probably going to jump to 600 or 700 because those values will all catch up. The sale that happened a couple months ago for the 65 won't be on these numbers. It'll be on next year's numbers. And if you go look at any of the 55 and older communities, you'll find that there's an onslaught of units for sale right at that value of the $75,000, that those same units may have been assessed at $130,000 2 years ago, or in 2018 they might have been assessed at $150,000. And so those prices have all adjusted dramatically, and it's simply part of the marketplace.
that makes sense. And I also, I wanted to update the public too, so I know it's a budget workshop, so I can either say it here or at the regular commission meeting, but I've been trying to get answers from Florida Department of Revenue since October of last year regarding Brightline, and it's based off of two things: track miles throughout your city or county and their tax returns. So Florida Department of Revenue finally responded about 3 weeks ago after I called the Florida Attorney General's office to let them know that they've been dodging me, and I was told it would be only 2 weeks for an answer last October when I was newly elected, and they ignored emails. I would call them on the phone. They would ignore that as well. But my point is, for the Fort Lauderdale station, it was 6 miles of track, and they were only paying $26,000 in taxes to there, and that was about a $60 million project. The city of Stuart was $45 million between the city and the county, maximum, and it was only 2 miles of track, to put it in perspective. Brightline would be paying it, but I just wanted to mention that during the budget workshop. Whether it's relevant or not, I think they should know.
I don't know that we ever used any tax revenue in any of the requests for proposals or the
We
projections or
didn't,
anything?
I was just mentioning it,
Okay.
that I didn't get answers since last October, and I was told it would take 2 weeks. Almost a year later.
I'm surprised they're giving it to you at all. I was asked by Commissioner Crosskoff years ago to find out what Walmart pays, and they told me that was proprietary information. They wouldn't allow that out. But I think because Brightline is taking public bonds, it's allowed their information to be public.
It was
So-
based off of Florida statute, but they wouldn't
Yeah.
give me, obviously, their tax
Well, that's
returns.
FEC.
I didn't,
Yeah.
yeah,
So the Brightline doesn't own any of the tracks.
correct.
It's the FEC,
It's called centrally
taxes.
assessed property, yes.
but, so Brightline's paying it as a tenant, just like we make our tenants pay a pass-through amount in the taxes
Regardless,
as
it
well.
wasn't a large amount
Right.
for what they were borrowing from taxpayers. That was my comment. And then I also had another question on, and this is more for the board. Jolie, I know you had a slide up here on, I don't know what number it was, because we don't get this emailed to us, but it mentioned where the cuts were, right here. I don't know what the consensus is from the board, is if it's personnel or if it's adjusting the fleet management, deferring capital improvement projects, capital fleet replacement reserve funding, or manager adjustments to revenue and operations. There's obviously 4 categories there. I just wanted to mention it.
Just so you know, that those categories are for the sole purposes of describing it to you guys.
I understand.
The cuts are, name it, it's in there. I mean, that we've cut pencils, there's personnel, there's electric bills, there's lawn service, there's lights. I mean, there's adjustments in
Probably,
everything.
yeah.
So it's not like there's an item that we can say, this doesn't apply. It's a global approach of operating the city. So summarizing it and writing those words was just to try and
Group
make
it together.
so I could put it on one
I
page
understand
instead of
it,
600 pages.
but as long as the public understands it as well.
Yeah, there's, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I was just adding.
That's okay. I just wanted to make
No,
a statement.
I'm sorry, the
Oh,
vice
you're-
mayor's next.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
finished.
I thought you forgot to put your phone down. Sorry.
So, for anybody that was wondering why I have a Band-Aid on and a fat lip, just to clear the air, I was savagely beaten by my surfboard this weekend. I wanted to thank you guys, because I know you've been working hard to get this down to 475. I know it was no easy task, and the last week, kind of hashing it out between Mike and Vince, I think there is a bit of an opportunity here, so I wanted to throw a little bit of a wild card at you guys. You know, now that we're at 475, we're basically, like you said, at that rollback rate. But with fire, and this is to your comments last time, the overtime is an issue. So in talking to Vince, I don't think he gets enough credit with you guys, because he was going to bat for you pretty relentlessly. We started at 11 staff and then 7. And finally, after arguing enough, 3 plus the 1 vacancy. But if we could basically split the difference, you know, and whatever that would cost would be my pitch to you guys, to where you had 1 per station and then that vacancy, to where your overtime wouldn't be as big of a deal. And, you know, ideally, in talking to the union guys and talking to John, you know, at least having 3 human beings on an engine for safety.
If I could just chime in, so
And we talked about this a few days ago.
in the edification for the rest of the board, currently, the fire department has shifts, A, B, and C shifts. And they had essentially 12 people per shift, but there was one shift that had 11 people, and it actually was, and I had spoken with Vince early on about it, and then also John Hatch, the president of the union, about at some point during the budget cycle adding that 1 person. When we ended up with all the cuts, I wasn't in a position, I didn't have any money, but the one position that Commissioner Collins is referencing is to make that each shift to be the balanced number. 1 shift is always short a person, no matter what, just because of the way it's currently scheduled. The other 3 positions that Commissioner Collins or Vice Mayor Collins is referencing is that last year we tried a program, and it will work. It's just we had a tsunami last year, or the perfect storm, as they call it, of other issues. But the theory is A, B, and C shift, back again, going back to those shifts. If you hire the one person, that's to balance it so that everybody has 12. Then that's that. Now you have balanced shifts. But then in A, B, and C shift, if you added 3 more firefighters, they wouldn't necessarily be assigned to Station 1 or Station 2 or Station 3. They'd be assigned to A, B, or C shift. And so if somebody was out on PTO at Station 1, then, and it was an A shift person that was out, then one of these people that they're referring to as a floater would go fill that gap and not have an overtime come in. And then the same thing would go for the other 2, meaning floaters. Now, the other thing that the fire department did discuss, and it is...
Before you just, excuse me, are you suggesting we add 3 at 475?
So what I'm suggesting is we basically would split the difference on the net.
I don't know. what
So
that
you would
means.
come in at something higher than 475. With the savings that we do have, what I'm asserting is there's a buffer there to potentially still come in under 5. Maybe it's 4.9. I don't, you guys would be able to,
4.89.
yeah, you guys would figure out what that number is, but at the same time, we could deal with that.
And I
deficit
actually
in
would,
fire.
I could tell you what,
Roughly for personnel.
my calculation, when I say mine, the number that Jolie told me
I'm going with that.
is,
Yeah.
and this includes soup to nuts, so it's not, I don't want to discuss their salaries, like, and
No, I
everything,
understand
but,
that.
so,
Uniforms, everything.
but everything involved,
no,
a brand
I
new
didn't include the
person is
uniform.
about 88. And so that includes their FRS contribution, that includes Social Security contribution, FICA contribution, health insurance contribution, all of the stuff for one brand new guy. Now, I will.
Year one.
Year one. Well, that's what I was going to say. So when you say that filling the gap, if we fill that gap this year, and I say, let's say it's 4 people, what's the math on 4 people right now? Can you have it on your computer?
Well,
I would
320
never
plus
contradict anything you said, boss, but 88 isn't the number I
Okay,
gave you.
what is it?
Okay. The num-
350.
It's, no, 96,501 is the, but that doesn't include the T-shirt and the hat that they get, so that I don't,
Well,
that I didn't do. But
they have
that
a
is,
lot
that
of
is,
T-shirts.
yeah, that is tax tag and title out the door for what an average firefighter is right now.
So 96,501,
That's
saying 4.
386,004.
So, okay, so 386,004 would be the cost of 4 people.
And that's for year 1.
Day
Right.
one next
Now,
year, day
when
one
we-
next year.
When we did the last workshop, we told you that the 0.25 millage reduction was essentially $917,000.
Right.
However, from the $917,000, if you collect the $917,000, you have to pay $152,000 of that to the CRA under the CRA math. So it drops that number down to $761,000. So if you take 761 minus 386, you get whatever the gap is. But I will tell you that the 386 is not a stationary number. It's contractually, they have to meet, I don't know, it's paramedic or EMT, but they have to meet certain criteria within 3 years in order to remain employed. And when they meet those different levels, their pay actually goes up as well. So when I look at the budget, I'm not looking at next year. I'm looking at, what's it going to be like 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 years from now. However, from the standpoint of your guys' conversation, if you wanted to continue to have a reduction, I would simply and hire the employees. I would simply instruct Jolie to subtract 386 from 761 to figure out what that number is,
millage
which is
number
about
would
290 or whatever, 280, and then whatever that number needs to be reduced from 5 mils would be what it'd be. So it'd be 4.93 or 4.94 or whatever it is.
Right.
to meet the number, if that's what your direction was.
I wanted to ask if Vince, if you would speak to that need a little bit and that deficit from fire's perspective.
Well, so the need is variable, right? So we have overtime is the big thing that everybody hits, right? At the very basics, you need more people trained and qualified so we can get them to the point where they're useful, so we can reduce the overtime, right? And that's not even talking about trying to staff vehicles. So 4 would help us move in that direction, but it's not going to be, the end all be all. If that helps.
But it's better than not having.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when you see our overtime. So that's, and everybody here can speak for it because we've been operating as a skeleton crew for a long time. So we just got to incrementally chip away at this.
I do want to have one other comment. Public safety is very different than regular employment. Like, for example, if I took tomorrow off, no one's going to need to sit in my chair all day. But when a firefighter or a police officer takes the day off, we must put someone else in their shoes and have them there to fill that position the entire time they're out. So when people are out on PTO or out on work comp or out whatever it is, we can't just say, oh, let's just let their work wait for them to get back next week. They can catch up over time. It doesn't work that way. The work doesn't wait for them. They have to go, and it has to be that day. So you have these minimum staffing requirements. And I know the Mayor or Vice Mayor Collins made the comment about having 3 people on the engine and 3 people on the ambulance.
Not on the ambulance engine.
Okay. My thing on it is so we didn't open up the union negotiations or do anything. So my position on it would be that obviously the direction of the commission is whatever we're going to follow. I just want to be clear that we're not changing any protocols or changing any minimum staffing. If it turns out that we have, and by the way, since I've been at the city of Stuart, I don't think this has ever happened. But if it turns out that we have 100% attendance in a shift one day, then great, we can have as many people on every thing as you can. But if you actually really start getting into the weeds in the way the fire schedule works, is every 3rd week, the firefighters have worked 24 hours more than they should have. So they get a Kelly day, which is a comp day that they technically don't get paid for, but they also don't work that day because if you work 24-hour shift and you work a second 24-hour shift, you worked 48 hours. Well, that's 8 over the Fair Labor Standards Act number, and then every 3 weeks, you've got 8 plus 8 plus 8 equals 24 built-up hours that needs to be erased. So then their next day that they're scheduled to work, they don't go to work to wash out that 24 hours. But when they don't go to work that day, somebody else needs to be there. But we don't have everybody take Kelly Day on the same day. But if you have 12 people in a shift and you have 4 weeks a month, there's at least 3 people on each shift that's going to be out on one of those days, one of those weeks for a Kelly Day, just because that's how it works to spread them all out. So no matter what, there's never going to be 12 people there. And then if someone takes a single day off, it goes from 12 to 11. And then someone takes a day off, now it's down to 10. And then if someone gets hurt and they're out on work comp, now it's down to 9. And then if someone gets called into active duty, now it's down to 8. And then if someone is pregnant or just had a baby, now it's down to 7. And everybody in this room, I'm sure, can verify for you that that's every day. It's not like an anomaly. We saw that this year in numbers that we hadn't seen in a long time. And it ebbs and flows. I don't expect it to be the perfect storm like we had this year. And last year we started this floater thing as kind of an idea to try and solve it. And we had negotiated with the union, and we said to them, look, if this works, moving forward, we'll push for additional to do it. Now, the economy didn't put me in a position this year to push to do it, because obviously, like we were just talking about, the real estate market put on the brakes. I mean, there's not a lot of transactional stuff like that. We had other revenues down in Stuart, and as a result, and interest rates went way up. So we didn't really push the hiring of these positions. However, with that being said, in all candor, there's never been a time that the chief came to my office and didn't say, we need these guys. He just stopped saying it as loud when I said to him, I need a private jet. You know, but I don't have the money. I'm not getting one either way. And so he stopped asking for it because he knew that I couldn't provide it. But it was also our intention in the future to kind of shift toward that model and try and figure that out.
Commissioner Clark?
Oh, hi, Jolie, could you, I don't think I might need you, Chief.
Okay.
Could you put back up that thing with the fleet management, the 4 areas where the reductions happen? Yeah, and I know that we had bought the Quint and some other new equipment in our fleets for the fire.
That's still
department,
coming.
And okay, it's coming, okay, all right.
When's it coming, Mike?
Did you,
It's going to be here sometime.
They send us a picture every so often. I think it's a photo of
I
someone
know it's
else's
in
truck.
Wisconsin.
Yeah. The ladder truck's supposed to be done in April, so that's huge. And then we should get our ambulance in June, and then the fire engine should be the following April. They're running about 36 months.
Be a good business to be in.
Apparently.
Yeah.
and our regular, did we have to cut corners on our regular replacement for vehicles that are on the road all the time, like
Yes.
the police vehicles?
Yes. When you say cut corners, I don't want it, that
Oh, I'm
doesn't.
sorry, I mean, well,
So yes, we deferred the purchasing of newer vehicles. We deferred the returning of some lease vehicles. We deferred the replacement of some large, like, you know, the guys that drive by your house and pick up the lawn equipment, or the lawn stuff, the grapple truck thing that reaches that arm out, grabs stuff out and puts it in the back. We have a 2013 grapple truck that was $250,000. It's operating pretty well. We can put about $30,000 into it, and it'll continue to operate, and we probably get 2 more years out of it rather than spending the $250,000 this year on it. So yes, that's an item that we made the decision in order to balance the budget to defer. It's not to say that we're never going to get another gravel truck, because I can promise you it will wear out, and we will ultimately need to get another one of those trucks. It's just that the cost right now was that in order to meet the budget constraints and do what we needed to do, that was one of the things that took place. And there's also, you know, the elephant in the room is there's staffing. And so, yes, the number of full-time employees at the city of Stuart today will be different than the number of full-time employees in the city of Stuart next year at this time.
because a lot of things will also be by attrition also. Attrition, drop, and other things.
Well, so attrition and drop are the same thing to the extent that, yes, it's anticipated that some people will retire or leave over the course of the next 10 months. The way I looked at it is there'll be a reduction of roughly 16 full-time positions. 8 of those will be immediate or are already in place. And then out of the other 8, roughly 4 will happen before October 1st, maybe even 5. And then 2 or 3, maybe 4 could be through attrition through, say, next June, July.
So, you mentioned about the seats. Somebody had to be in a seat, whether it's police or fire, especially when we talk about essential roles. So, for example, if you had 2 people, and I'm going towards consolidation of roles now. If you had one counting green shirts and one counting blue shirts, we're just gonna get one person to count both the green and the blue shirts. So we'll still have the same work being done, but we're gonna try to consolidate some things.
So that's a good question, because when this exercise started, it obviously was difficult for me because I've been here a long time, and so I know everybody's. It's not just positions to me. I know their family. I know their spouse. I know their kids. I know their parents. Things like that. So I didn't want it to be emotionally involved. So I intentionally removed all pay, and I intentionally removed all the names from every single position that I was reviewing. And then I was going through and I was saying, okay, if this, and I started at the first position. I said, if this position is removed from the city, will the city need to hire somebody back to fill this job in the next 24 months? And so when I got to city manager, I was like, no, they don't need a city manager, so I'll just put a line through that.
Can you say that?
And I laughed, but it wasn't me. But since I was making the list, I thought I would leave myself off of it. But the truth of it is, I went through, and it was positions that either, you talk about counting shirts, blue shirts and red shirts. Obviously, we don't have that position. Well, another one, and I used it at the last workshop, garbage truck drivers. There's no garbage truck drivers that are being eliminated. The reason why is because the garbage truck drivers, if I had a garbage truck driver quit today, I would need to hire another garbage truck driver tomorrow to get somebody back out there collecting the garbage, because I couldn't have that position not operate without somebody in that seat. Whether the person I hired tomorrow was more qualified than the person that was working today or less qualified than the person that was working today had no bearing on my decision. It was, is this position essential for the operation of the city? Now, it's more complicated than just saying that, because you might have, I'm going to use administrative assistant. Well, I might have an administrative assistant that works in development. I might have an administrative assistant that works in water and utilities. Well, I can't say, well, I can just have one administrative assistant do both jobs, because that doesn't work. One has to be over here, one has to be over here. So it's not just picking a name, and that sounds like there's 2 of those, so I can get rid of one of them. It wasn't that. It was much, much more complicated. It was, to tell you how many nights I was up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, going through it, looking at it, trying to adjust, trying to figure out. And, and I met with all the directors and talked to them, and we went through the budget, went through every single person's name in every single department, and what do they do and what don't they do and how can they do it and where would they do it, everything. And it really came down to, no matter what, if I had $1 trillion, it'd be great. I could say everybody has their job, and if we have too many people, so what? We'll just all be happy and the work will get done and it won't matter. But that wasn't the situation. It was, this job needs to get accomplished. We're not going to have enough money to keep it the way it is now. And quite frankly, that was the case. John Hatch, again, you guys might not know him personally, but he's the president of the fire union. And I regularly met all year long. And way before we got into these budget negotiations, I'm talking about last January or February, I was saying to John, the economic winds are blowing. This is not going to be the same negotiations as last year. We are not going to have any money next summer. I'm down in every single department as far as revenue is concerned. The real estate market has literally gone into reverse. The interest that we were getting on our investments has dropped by almost 2 points. I mean, like, I could just see it happening. And so I would tell John in every one of our meetings, I'm not going to have any money this summer. So I knew this was coming. And so as positions left or somebody left, we would say, you know what, don't fill that position because I might not be able to. That might be one of those positions that we can use for, you know, to adjust this. And so I've been, you know, it's not a conversation that started in June and that I just started looking at it. It's a conversation that started the day after we adopted the budget last year. And I've been watching it and talking about it and looking at it and trying to make sure we're sustainable going forward. And obviously, the day after the budget last year, my goal was we need to have a budget that does not increase taxes. And I knew that that was going to require reductions. And it did. And I think, you know, and I can tell you guys moving forward, unless we find a new economic engine that is going to continue to be the case, you're going to find that, and again, you know, the chart's not up there, ad valorem's only 36% of the budget, but if you look at all those other things, all those other numbers go down too. You know, like, you know, we talk about business tax receipts. Well, if the economy goes down and people aren't opening businesses, guess what? Business tax receipts are going down too. Mm-hmm. And if people aren't opening businesses and the economy is going down and we're at build out, so there's not going to be any construction, so all those permitting numbers are going to be going down. And then all those jobs are going to be going down. And there's no new value on those things because there's not going to be any new taxes. So the only ad valorem increases we're going to have are passive appreciation rather than active appreciation. So historically, when the Indigo got built, there was $60 million in active appreciation because a building that was a vacant lot turned into a $60 million taxable event. Well, there's no more vacant lots. So there's not going to be a bunch of $60 million tax events that happen in our future. It's going to be basically the same as we are. And so in anticipating that, we've been going through and looking at the budget and following it and saying, okay, what can be streamlined? And I probably shouldn't say this because I know it's like everyone's got this fear of it, but there's this machine learning is creating lots of efficiencies that over time, you know, there's a lot of municipalities that are having, you know, AI take a lot of the personal stuff out of service and having it being done, you know, as in an automated fashion. And I'm not saying that the city of Stuart is going to turn into a please press 7, please press 9. I mean, obviously, we want to provide a community and service, but we're looking every day to automate as much as we can. And I can tell you, you know, Jolie, over the course of the last year, and a lot of you know about it, because when we implemented the new software as it relates to business tax receipts and resetting up that system, when we completely switched over after 25 years in a different system, the phone rang off the hook with people frustrated with resetting up and re-getting into the system. But we're already more than $100,000 ahead per year in collection of business tax, and I'm anticipating that's probably going to go up to close to 200,000 by next year. And then if you know, for 10 years, that's $2 million in revenue increase that those short-term headaches generated for the city. But overall, all of those numbers are subject to recessions and adjustments. And so as we stand here, yes, there was personnel cuts that had to get us to 4.75, but that's, that's how it works. I mean, I can't do it otherwise.
You have any additional
I should-
questions?
I should continue?
Yes?
Okay. Jolie, can you put back up that picture that had the avocado green chart and the tall one, the vertical?
A line,
that-
vertical line.
I'm not sure if, yeah, so for the residents, when they hear or when we approve something come September, and with homestead and other things, what would be the average, what is that number that is gonna be the magic number that says they're, I guess it's not
What
that
they're saving, he has a
yeah.
slide on that, for
Yeah,
property
yeah,
value.
a little,
Julie,
yeah, I
the
might have
Excel
missed
sheet.
that.
And the more tax you pay, the bigger your savings.
Did I miss something?
He's got an Excel sheet.
Yeah, there's a.
You know, that's deceptive, because you see, so like in the second column from the right, the left, it says the total savings is, boy, I can't read that, 9,000 what?
687.
Okay, that's divided
By
among 1,400 people.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking
So
incremental,
that's what I'm,
Right, so
that's
if I
what I
take-
wanted to see what
He's got the
little-
Excel
yeah.
sheet.
So if I take
where the
the,
the biggest
1449
developments are saving,
divided
those
by
10 are saving 88.
9687. So the second column is, I think it says 14 cents. 0.149.
That one?
This was
Yeah.
Yep, well, I mean, also, I mean, inversely, those are the largest tax contributors
Right.
as
Yes.
well. So, I mean, that's what keeps, of the 17 or 18 million or wherever, today, if we change the millage again, whatever the number is, these people pay the overwhelming predominance of that millage.
And if we're a lot closer to 5, that chart's
Right.
not, yeah.
Yeah, that chart's going to shrink a little, and these people, right, they pay to play. I mean, of course, they have the larger portion of the savings, but they're the larger taxpayers too. So they're paying $288,000 in taxes, and you're going to give them a $14,000 break. But they pay $288,000 in taxes, so that's, you got to pay to play.
Complaint is growth doesn't pay for itself, and here we're giving these biggest multifamily. It sure as heck's not gonna pay for itself if we give them the biggest tax break. On my own taxes, I
Either
was
way, it
gonna
doesn't
save,
pay
now
for
with your
itself.
new budget, I'll save 0.5%. That's how much I'll save. $2 a month. That's what I'll save. I'm not sure it's worth it.
Jolie, can you go back to that chart?
Yes.
This is a good one. So you're telling me for the other one, the Excel one. So a $43 million taxable value, they pay $219,000 a year in ad valorem.
If you divide 43 million by 1,000 and then multiply by 5, that's what you get. So the mill is
$219,000 a year.
1,000, 219.
And imagine if we spent $45 million on Brightline, if we only got 10 to 15,000 a year. I agree with Vice Mayor Collins though. So you're cutting the millage, but you're giving 4 firefighters. Now is that 3 for ABC shift and then 1 floater? And that should help the overtime.
No, it's 1 to balance the shifts and 3 floaters.
3
Yeah, that's right.
And then when Sewell's Point comes up for negotiation, that would help
In 2028.
2028. That's 3 years. And my next question is, does the police union lock in their contract for 3 years? Or is it always up for negotiation every fiscal year?
Both contracts are signed as 3-year terms, but both contracts under union rules have the ability to have what they call openers, and both contracts include salaries as openers.
And does the county have that as well? Just so I'm familiar.
Yes. Mhm. The county didn't open their contract this year, but their 3rd year, I think this is the 3rd year they open next year, I believe.
Ladies first, you can go.
We're-
Okay, so one thing I do want to say, and I think it was glossed over, and you had brought it up the last budget meeting, there were still cuts taking place even if we stayed at the 5 million. There were still cuts right across the line. So the 4.75 just added additional cuts. So it's not that, I just think that some people that I've spoken to think that if we'd stayed at 5, there'd be no cuts. And that's not really true. There were cuts anyway. I also want to commend Jolie for a great job. Thank you for your patience. And the city manager also. You work hard on these budgets. They're never easy. And I think we all recognize essential personnel are essential personnel. It is different. I don't know whose idea it was about the floater, but I think it was yours, Mike, and I think that that was a really great way to go for essential personnel, utilizing floaters and trying to cut on some of the overtime. And I want to commend the vice mayor, because it was really his foresight to say, we really need to pull back on the brakes a bit. And I think that the city manager confirmed that today, where everything is going down. Real estate's going down, all of that. And we have to be prepared for that. And I'd rather be prepared for it on an ongoing basis each year when we look at it, rather than 2 years down the road, we're cutting back to like 4% of a millage rate, trying to save money and trying to run the city based on this. This gives us a tool to be able to run the city as it should be, but cutting back where we can and being proactive as to what we're looking at for the next couple of years, in how the economy works, how the real estate goes, and all of that.
Well, it really cut 200,000 a year.
It depends on what you do. Right now, the budget that's presented to you is at 4.75. And
But
it's
with
got
what
a,
Vice Mayor Collins
Yes.
said, if you take his direction.
well, then but you haven't done that yet.
Correct.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's 4 or 7 or 11.
Well, it would come to like, what, 4, 9?
You're
Well, if-
splitting the
8, 9 or
difference.
something.
If it's
I think
4
we're 4.89.
employees, you were
400.
So
cutting,
it's basically just shifting money.
right.
I
Right.
mean,
You're still taking, it would be what, 4?
You're,
Jolie, can you do that math?
we've reduced the budget by $761,000,
And add
and we're increasing it by 386. So,
But you had already reduced by $1 million.
well, 917 was the 4.50 to 4.75 was
But
$917,000
even at 5,
reduction.
you had reduced 5.
Well, that's just ad valorem.
Right.
As Commissioner Giobbe pointed out, we also had other reductions and other costs. So there were, when you got the request, we came into it $3.9 million out of balance
Right.
Right.
at 5.
Because revenues were down.
Right. Because you had
Expenses had only gone up.
You had other cuts other than ad valorem, essentially. They were not our choice to cut them. They were cut for us by people not spending as much or the real estate
Right.
market drying up.
Macroeconomic
Right.
events.
Right, exactly.
So I was shocked at how few people really understood their tax bill, and this is the tax bill. Okay. And typically, only about a quarter of that bill is paid to the city. So it's important to understand that. And I did do the calculation for myself. Now, we've lived in our house for 30 years. So what confuses people is it's so out of whack when you look at the numbers, because you know your home has an approximate value based on real estate transaction in your neighborhood. And that has nothing to do with the market value according to the tax rolls, and it has nothing to do with the assessed value. In my case, the assessed value is just barely 25% of what the actual value of my home is. So reducing it by a quarter just to go through this, my total tax bill is $3,985 proposed. 1,060 of that gets paid to the city.
what's your assessment?
My assessed value is $212,000. Assessed value is $255, not the taxable.
But most
But I get-
municipalities work that way. Nobody's paying taxes
No,
on
no, I
their
was just
real
pointing
estate
it out.
value.
No, but it's confusing to people.
Very confusing.
Yeah, when they look at
Yeah,
it.
because mine's like.
They go, my neighbor
400,000,
just sold
yeah.
for $800,000, and it
Yeah.
says here.
But he's not paying taxes.
People
on
will
the
try to offer you
800,000.
that price.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
Jenny Fields will be by soon to.
So my taxes,
Don't worry.
my taxes, before this reduction, my overall taxes would go down by 1.32%. Now, my taxes would still go up. They would still be higher, and that's what I would see. Okay, because of the county's taxation, and the school's taxation, and the Children's Services Council, and the South Florida Water Management District. But now my taxes would go up by, I'm just guessing, if we split the difference, $2 a month, $24 a year. And so for $24 a year, we want the parks to be less well-tended. We want the ball fields to be less
I
well-tended.
don't think anyone's,
Would you just allow me to
I'm
finish
sorry.
my remarks? Thank you. So I'm actually, can you go back to the categories, please, Jolie, in terms of valuations? So we see, it's the bar graph, Jolie.
Oh,
So I'm in the 255 cat, so I'm up to 300,000, which is, where is that?
41,950.
Yeah, you know, it's
755 parcels.
it's not the largest category, but it's right after the largest category. So my friend who lives over on Stitman, her total taxes are, she's lived in her house for 300. She got offered $500 for $500,000 for it. Her taxes are $299. She will save 65 cents a month. She's in the single largest category.
Which one is she in?
Her assessed value is 100 grand.
100,000. She's in the 16,173 divided by 737. So she'll save.
So her taxes will still go up. All she'll see is higher taxes. Her city taxes are only 25% of her overall taxes. So, Madam Clerk, how many emails have we gotten from individuals asking that we lower the millage?
That we lower, I haven't seen any.
Not a single person has ever asked me to lower their taxes. You know what they asked me? Get Milton over here to fix this. Come pick this up. Mow this medium. I called the city, I couldn't get a call back. They want services. We are not a poor community. We are a community that is prosperous and is able to provide a high level of service. And for 50 cents a month, my 82-year-old friend wants to know that she can rely on this city to take care of her street, to take care of our community. And what we're really doing here, is we're going to create resentment between the rank and file and public safety. It's going to say the only accommodation that was made was for public safety and for none of the rest of us. And I really worry about that.
I'm sure
'cause
they'll appreciate that when they're dying of a heart attack.
That's
in their
just
living room.
human nature.
Much more than they'll care about Milton coming out when they're dying. Are you for real? Really?
Public safety is
What is
by
your-
far the largest
What
part
is
of
your
our budget.
point? What is your point?
The point is, let's just keep it at 5.
it was so fast.
And just to conclude, so Commissioner Clark and I went up to Florida League of Cities, and they were obviously talking about those elements. The state is doing everything they can to make it more difficult for cities to run their own affairs. And there's 2 ways they do that. One is through SB 180, through Live Local Act. But the other is limiting the ability of municipalities to raise funds. By the way, Representative Oberdorf is going to be having a hearing here in town. I think it's the 9th. Does somebody know? September 9th? You can attend that. He's head of that committee.
I'm sure I'll answer questions.
So there are 5 reforms they're currently talking about. One is requiring a referendum on the question of eliminating property taxes on homestead property. New 5,000 homestead exemption and 1 million homestead exemption for 65 and older and 30-year ownership. I have no idea how that would impact the city. It would impact the city and possibly quite dramatically. Allow legislature to increase homestead exemption to any value, modifying the assessment increase limitations 3% every 3 years and 15% every 3 years non-homestead. That would have a dramatic impact on the city's revenue. And finally, and I don't know where this one came from, but eliminating foreclosures on homestead property due to tax lien. Now, they don't know if all of those are going to pass, they doubt, but they know some of them are going to pass. And those are going to impact our revenues. It'll be remarkable if we are able to run the city and hold it at 5 mils. So we don't have to do this. This is the most counterintuitive logic I've ever heard. It's like a fire is coming for our crop. Let's burn some of it down ourselves first so that we know what a burnt, I don't understand that. I don't understand why we need to start reducing our revenues when they are being reduced for us by external events.
Correct.
65% of the properties in the city pay, what is it, $100 or less?
And
20?
when we did the fire assessment in 2014, we determined that 6,500 parcels out of 10,000 parcels paid $100 or less in taxes. I don't know if that number still holds because obviously the values of properties have changed since 2014, but I think Jolie.
Well, so right now, all the studies that we do is only on, all they've released is the 2024 final certified tax roll. So this 2025 tax roll is still in flux. That's why the numbers I'm telling you are changing on the graph by the, by the day. So the last time I looked at it, the number was, I was looking at total properties. There's 9,683 parcels in the city, and 4,800 of them were under the $100. So, just about half.
This is a benefit for the biggest multifamilies who we complain about all the time, some of the biggest companies in the United States, and the wealthiest. And what happens to the rest of us is just a degradation in the quality of services that the city is able to provide. I don't see the need for it at all, and I would hope we could just stay at 5. Mr. Vice Mayor.
So, to the point I made last time, the city commission, right? We cannot tell our city manager exactly where to cut and what to cut. The only real lever that we have to pull is millage. And it's clear that what we offered, bring us a 475 budget, accomplished that. You went through everything and you looked at it and you saw where there was opportunity to cut spending, and you did that. And the second half of, what I brought up tonight is within that buffer, prioritizing public safety, specifically fire, as they've been doing the skeleton crew thing for a while. There's like a bit of cognitive dissonance going on. It's like we can recognize that there's less income coming in. And to your example, if you had a farm, right, and you had staff that was helping you, and you've got a less productive crop, and you're not going to be able to sell as much of that crop, you're not going to have as much income, you need to start looking at where you can streamline staff and personnel so that you don't go in the red and have to close down the whole thing. From your own lips, Mayor, you've admitted clearly it looks like we're not going to have as much income coming in. So the one thing that this commission can do, the one lever we can pull, is to say, city manager, bring us back a budget that cuts spending, and we do that by asking the millage to be decreased. Here's the alternative. Maybe this is counterintuitive for you. If you don't cut spending this year and your income continues to decrease, you're going to have to raise taxes. And maybe that's okay with you, but as a red-blooded American conservative man, that's not okay with me. So when you're facing less revenue coming in, you cut spending so that you don't have to raise taxes. And if we don't start a new trajectory now, my concern is we've been riding 5 mills for so long that the next step is going to be raising taxes. So I appreciate the work you guys have done in bringing us a 475 budget. I don't know exactly what kind of motion I would make to see a 475 budget plus 4 in fire rescue. And then you would come back at the trim meeting and tell us exactly what that millage looks like for approval.
Just to be clear, we were $3 million in the red, and he did cut. So why you want to put his $4 million in the red,
Because
that I don't understand.
Because with that .25, he was able to further cut spending. Does that not make sense?
No, it doesn't.
No?
We were already in the red. He had already cut spending. We've kept it at
And
5.
now, if you're facing less revenue
It
next
looks
year,
like-
you'll have a little
it
bit of
looks
a
like
buffer.
to me, just rough math, and my math is, I'm backing it in based on 761, so I don't take the CRA into it. But if I divide 761 by .0025, doing the back millage rate, then I get an assessed value of 400,000. And then if I multiply that
5 mils.
by .001232, I get the $375,000 that's left over between the cost of the 4 firefighters and the cost of 761,000, because it was 761, firefighters were 386. Multiplying that, I get roughly 375. To equate to 375, it's .001232. But that doesn't take into the CRA math, but you're looking at close to a .011 number.
Something like that.
Right.
So then I would move,
Reduction or
It would be, you'd end up with
point
4.8997.
The exact number, boss, with the CRA is 4.8733.
there you go.
Okay.
But that's a really close haircut. Those T-shirts and hats still have to come out too.
And I will tell everybody in the room, next year, the budget will exceed it, because their contract has expenses built into it that'll go up higher than that. Again, that doesn't mean that other cuts doesn't happen, or that there's other revenue that balances
And if
out.
property taxes get cut and the state
Well,
sets
I
up a
know,
new
right, but
arrangement, there's going to be a lot to figure out
But what I'm
next
saying
year,
is that
for sure.
4 firefighters don't cost $386,000 perpetually. That price is
This first year.
it goes
I
up.
think we will.
Right, and so I just need to make sure that to cover those public safety expenses, people need to anticipate that the
And
following year.
again, to the point of
Right.
overtime.
Right. And it could be that we have a reduction in overtime that doesn't play into that. So there's a lot of unknown variables that will play a role in this that I will not have the answer to until next year at this
lower
time.
interest rate.
So
That
then
could be.
I would like to make a
Vice Mayor,
motion.
Can I ask a question? before you
Certainly,
make the
Commissioner Clark.
motion?
Sure.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So just to be clear, Mr. Mortel, can you tell the public that we're not eliminating one department or any departments at all? We're only making changes and adjustments in each department throughout the city.
Yeah, I did not cancel Public Works or any departments. All of the departments still exist.
He wanted to get rid of finance a couple times because he didn't like my answer. But that was,
I actually
But we
canceled,
couldn't do it.
there were several times I tried to cancel commissioners, but they said I couldn't do that
yeah,
either.
it said we couldn't do that one either.
There you go.
But there is no single department being canceled. And honestly, I didn't go into the exercise even looking at a single position. I didn't say, I think this position needs to go walking into it. I literally started at the very first position, and Jolie knows because he was the sounding board for most of it, because we went through the budgets with the directors of every single department and every single position. So before the budget meeting with the director, I would talk to Jolie about it. During the budget meeting with the director, I would talk to Jolie about it. And then after the budget meeting with the director, I would talk to Jolie about those positions and bouncing stuff off of him, not asking him to do it, just asking him what's this or what's that, or run this math for me or run that math for me. And so all of it was, none of it was based on, looking for joy. It was all completely economic and completely, this has got no emotion in it at all. Does this city of Stuart have the ability to operate without this position? And if so, how and what needs to be done to make up for it? And it's not I don't have a list written down of people's names or anything anywhere. I've never done that. It's not even final because I don't have the final numbers from you guys yet. So after today's meeting, there will be additional reviews and adjustments to make sure that it meets all the criteria. But there was no position that was immune, and there was no position that was identified as being targeted.
I appreciate that. It chips away at some of the hysteria that
Right.
the trash will be left out
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
and the toilets might back up.
Well, that could happen, but that's not going to be our
Different
fault.
reason, yeah. So I'd like to make a motion that we have coming back to us at the trim meeting, that 475 budget, but amended with 4 additional fire rescue that would have us look at a slightly different millage to be determined for the next meeting.
So is that the motion? Are we
Who
voting?
seconded?
Eula or Commissioner Clark?
We have a motion by the vice mayor and a second by Commissioner Clark. We can go to public comment.
Do we have green cards, Madam Clerk?
I have no green cards, Mayor.
have one.
Okay.
Hi, Ellen.
Ms. McBride?
I will say Ms. McBride has been at more budget meetings than I have.
Yes.
That's right, Michael, I have. You were in elementary school when I moved here. 4th grade.
Don't you forget it.
Yeah, I have to get that little
Don't
date
get
in
'em
there. As I
Don't worry,
said,
Ms. McBride, this won't be taken from your time to speak.
Okay, thank you. Helen McBride on Flamingo Avenue has, like I said, I've lived here for 52 years. I've been paying taxes for 52 years. And it's such a wonderful city because we have the services. And I can't understand why you've done wonders with the 5%. But to me, with this budget, you're going to hurt the seniors, the little people, the youngsters. Now, some of you do come to the 10th Street Rec Center, and some of you, I've never seen you over there. That's a fantastic program. It's been a lifesaver to me after I lost Bob to go over there. We meet every day. We have food, but we have the speakers, we have dancing. And then even while we're there, in the other rooms, there's activities going on. I mean, we lost the children, which broke our hearts, but now it's all for the adults. But yet, I'm like the mayor, the mayor. My taxes aren't going up that much. I mean, you're not bringing me down any. Like he said, it was only a couple of dollars. But I'm willing to pay that for the service I receive. I mean, no matter who you talk to. And I live on Flamingo Avenue, and a couple of you commissioners live on Flamingo Avenue. But like I say to the city workers and the department heads, I can't understand when they're not knocking on your door about having something done, and they're knocking on my door to ask me if I could do something. And no one's ever, in the city hall, the workers have never refused to have something done for my neighbors. So leave it. I don't know why this fire, you want to bring it down. I mean, maybe if you're running for re-election, it's going to look good because you can say, oh, I brought the taxes down. But think of the people, the seniors, the housewives even, and the veterans. We have a lot of veterans over our 10th Street Rec Center. But please, don't tax, just because you're young and you've got a profession and you're getting all that money coming in, we seniors aren't. And the parents who have young children, they're not getting it. But please, just try to think, is it worth that much to cut any department, or to cut the service, Memorial Park? Now, one other thing, and like when I talk to people, you want to put a skateboard park over there on 10th Street, but who's going to maintain it? Who's going to cut the grass, water the grass, fix anything that's broke? It's going to be a city worker, but because it's the city commissioner wants it done, it'll get done. But then the rest of us little people, it won't get done. Thank you. Here, officer. Thank you.
Mark Breckville, 406 Southeast Finney Drive, Stuart, Florida, 34996. I think that, and I've made this comment before, but I'm going to make it again. I think actually that Vice Mayor Collins has got the right approach from the standpoint of how we should approach this to get a better result from what is not necessarily a real estate tax cut, but a cost cut. What we're trying to provide, I think, is a cost cut for everybody. And I think that Ms. McBride has mentioned that, for most of the people in this community, it's not going to be a big impact if we stay in the real estate market. If we get over into the services area, now you're talking about something that can maybe have an impact. $12 on your monthly services is a bigger deal than $12 on your real estate taxes, right? And also, there's people who wouldn't be getting any benefit on the real estate taxes, and they are getting the benefit off of a service cut. Plus, a service cut is a one-year thing. We can adjust it next year if the numbers change. But as the city manager mentioned, we add these people on and we get this savings on this floating idea, and that's a great idea. But next year, that savings has gone away because a little bit of it's gone away. And every year, a little bit of it's gone away because the cut is not a cut. It's just a redistribution initially, and then the growth's going to catch up. So I think it's a good idea for public safety and for that type of thing. But I think that if we kept the millage at 5, make the cuts we're still looking at, but push those cuts back, like the vice mayor was saying, push those cuts back into utilities and the fire fee that people pay and some things like that, that would put money in people's pockets. That's something that would help. They would see that. Plus, it's not on the budget. It's not on the bill. Yeah, I think the mayor mentioned that, the bill is going to still show a big number, right? But if we're actually giving people a cut that shows up on a bill they get every month, that's something that can be really worthwhile, and people could see a benefit from that. So I would just say, take a look at that. We do need some time. It'd be nice if some of these cuts are temporary, which is not personnel. It's be nice if some of these cuts were temporary so that we can see what's going to happen. And when we do see what's happening, then we can make the permanent cuts that we're going to need to make. Because I agree. I think that we're probably at some point here going to see a big reversal. We've already had probably a 30% reduction in real estate values. So that's going to have a big effect on budget. So anyway, I just encourage you that. And just remember, as a CPA always learned, you can't cut your way to prosperity. It's all about revenue, and that's what's going to affect us in the long run. It's all about revenue. It's what's affecting us this year, what's affecting us in the next year.
You're private sector, though. You're not government. All we do is tax.
Thank you.
No further comment.
Any other comments or questions on the commission?
I would say,
On the motion?
yeah, as far as fire inspections, it'd be nice if they did all of the businesses and not just certain businesses if we had a fire inspector. And I can speak on behalf of that personally. My preschools get done every year, and some of our other businesses, whether they're in my family or my cousins, they don't get done consistently. Yes, I'm telling on myself, but I know it does not get done consistently. As far as the business tax receipt, I signed in and I gave up and I walked down to the building department and paid the business tax receipts in person because the system was way too complicated, like Mike had said earlier. And I gave up after a minute. I can walk down to Martin County to pay my business tax receipt and cut that portion off and bring them a check and be in and out
And you're technical.
within 2 to 3 minutes. Absolutely. And I
You can't
just,
figure it out.
well, it's not that I couldn't figure it out. Time is money. So I could sit on the website and check all these check boxes and go the distance, but my time is sometimes more valuable. So I don't think it's efficient, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. It's, you know, this is politics at its worst. We had the skate park, 500,000, we're told. They're gonna raise the money, we're told. They didn't raise a single dime, and the cost actually comes in at closer to 650 to 700,000.
What does that have to do with this?
We hire an environmental attorney. That's a great commitment to make. Have we talked to her at all about what her expected costs are? No, her cost is not just 165, her salary. It's going to cost $250. It's going to cost every bit of that $300,000 that we have allotted to her for her to be successful in that position. So we can pretend we can add this, we can add that, oh, and we can cut your taxes. We're not accepting responsibility for the decisions we're making. That's what I see, and that's, you know, a source of regret for me. But, roll call, please.
I have Commissioner Giobi,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Rich.
No.
So Mike will go forward and consider this thing, bring it back.
What I'm planning to do is to return here on September 8th with a balanced budget and the script that has the new millage rate at 4.877 for whatever it was.
No.
No.
Taking into account.
Whatever it costs for the
It's not-
four,
For the
and then
forward.
we will add to the public safety, because don't forget, within the budget, there's 12 sub-budgets. So the public safety budget is going to go from whatever amount its total costs are now to whatever the new amount is with the 4 employees in it. And then I'm going to shift the revenues that come from the increase from 4.75 to 4.9 into that public safety revenues to balance that budget amount as well, ultimately resulting in a balanced budget.
Thank you, Mike.
We have comments by city commissioners now. Would you like to start, Commissioner Giobi?
Sure. Okay. The only comment I have is that budget time is difficult for everyone in any municipality, even in corporate America. But we're a small city, and I think that we really do not need to portray doomsday to the people who live here and think they're worried about losing services, to the rank and file. It is not necessary. It really is not to do a doomsday. People are going to think they're not going to get anything cut. They're not going to get any services from certain departments. It is unnecessary, and it is just unconscionable. Thank you.
Commissioner Reed.
Mayor Rich, I understand you said we've never had any comments for anyone wanting to reduce their taxes. I can't send you an email or call you and text you. That'd be a sunshine violation, but I will tell you,
No, I just asked the clerk.
I understand that, and I
So
can't.
Don't address me. I just asked the
Okay,
clerk. Commissioner.
well, I'm just letting you know, I would like for my taxes to go down personally. I work anywhere from 4 to 6 months out of the fiscal year just to pay taxes, whether that's income tax, property tax, sales tax, the whole 9 yards, so you're welcome.
Commissioner Clark, do you have any additional comment? Mr. Vice Mayor?
Sir?
What?
No, sir.
No, I have none. Do we really need to have approval of the agenda? No.
Yes.
And we had comments, are there any
She needs
additional
it. You need
comments from the
approval of the
public?
agenda?
Madam Clerk?
Mary says you need
Huh?
to approve the
It's
agenda.
on there, it's up to you.
What?
We have to
She
approve
wants
the
you to go
agenda.
through
Okay,
it.
can I get a motion for?
So moved.
Approval. Second.
We have a motion by the Vice Mayor, second by Commissioner Clark. Any public comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Are there any other, Madam Clerk, comments from the public?
No, I have no further comments.
Okay, seeing no what? Other items for discussion in this workshop, the meeting is adjourned. We'll see you in 17 minutes.
The same location, right?